Hello, buddy. We are talking with Marc and Samuel. You're in Switzerland, are you not?
Yeah.
Yes,
That's correct.
Okay, very good. Marc and Samuel are two of three, as I understand it, creators of a game called Darwin's Choice, which is a card game that focuses on evolution. So I'd like to hear more about that.
Yeah, I'm Marc. This is Samuel.
Sam.
And yes, we created a card game. It's all about evolution, and it fully focuses on evolution. So you create animals, you have to mutate animals, you have to migrate animals to keep them alive, because they're like in history. There are events like volcanic eruption, meteor strike, like external selection pressures, and the biomes change and things like that. And so it's like evolution in a box, I would say. Yeah.
Yes, I mean the game mechanics were very much inspired by the mechanism which happen in nature. Yes.
Yeah. So
and I think that was also very important when we created the game. I think with almost all the games we do, we really need to make them as
thematic as possible.
Yes, absolutely.
So this was like the most important goal for us, so that it really feels like evolution. So for us, the biggest compliment is always when people say, okay, this really feels like evolution. Or we have a lot of fans like evolutionary biologists, and when they come to us like at conventions and something like that, or when they write us emails and they really say, hey, this is really cool, this is exactly what we always were looking for, this is evolution. So then, this makes us really happy. So because then we have achieved our goal. Yeah.
So I'm interested in one. They do an awful lot of video games now, but I mean, you guys are doing a card game. That seems kind of novel. I'd also like to see the cards. Of course, I'm going to include links below for you have a website promoting this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll make sure to put the link below. And do you have any of these cards on hand to show off?
Yeah, of course.
I think we have plenty of them.
So this is the base game here. Here.
Yes, exactly. This is the base game,
and this is the expansion that is right now on Kickstarter. And so
we can open up the
base game and have a look at it. So you have a rule book, like you need a rule book, otherwise you can play it. Then you have a ton of cardboard chips, like Darwin points, that are the victory points in the game. Then you have food, meat and plants, because we have omnivores in the game, we have herbivores in the game, and we have carnivores in the game. And then we have the cards, a ton of cards. It's mainly it's animal cards. So a ton of animal cards drawn by Rosin Grosjean. She's a French artist. So you have like heads, and you have tails, like this one. Yes.
Okay.
Another head from the leopard seal. And then we have also single legs, something like this. And wings.
So when you have the equivalent of a full house, you have a completed animal?
Not really. So we don't have like all the cards of an animal species in the game. There are like 5 animal species that are complete, but it's more about to create your own animal species. So like a lion with African elephant body, and like octopus legs.
It was also about to kind of highlight certain aspects of an animal, something that maybe makes it very unique. And
so this would be the kind of transitional species the creationists are always asking for.
Not really. Sure. It's for us. It's more like you have these animal species, like the legs of an elephant here, and the legs of an animal, like the elephant has some very specific traits. So it's, for example, good in walking, and it can swim. and it has a certain kind of strength. And so it's the species look a little bit like monsters. You're like some very crazy combinations, but it's really more about to just symbolize what are like the what's richtig gut English? What are like the
in which habitat it suits
yeah
well.
Yeah, in which habitat it suits well, or which kind of traits does it have. So it's really important for us so that you really get the point. Why does this animal species have this kind of traits? Because there are not just animal cards in the game. So we also have bodies and double legs and things like that. But you also have like these biomes here. For example, the cold desert. And then in all these biomes, you have like a minimal requirement. For example, in the cold desert, it's forbidden to have heat resistance, like the long ears of a jackrabbit, or like the tail of African chipmunk, or something like that. And it's required to have cold resistance, so a big fur or like fat from like a musk ox or a reindeer. So you really have to look that your animal species fit the
environment.
Yeah, the environment.
It has the traits to survive.
And so the species, of course, they will look a little bit crazy, because you maybe have like the fur of a musk ox, and you have the legs of a polar bear, and you have like the head of a moose, because they are all like cold resistance. But in the combination, it makes sense because it fits to the environment, and you really get the point why these species works in this environment, and what traits are required in a certain environment.
Also in the ocean, we also have an ocean in our game, and basically there you need to have a creature which has a lot of these swimming attributes. And most of the time during the game, you will have a lot of creatures that have a lot of flaws.
A lot of fins.
And it also makes it makes also, to a certain amount, it makes also sense.
Yes. So if you have a look at it, you really think, okay, this looks a little bit crazy, of course, because it's like an elephant with a whale or something like that. But you think, okay, this could have been possible. Maybe not exactly like that, but you see, okay, it has fins, it can swim. Okay,
it has those traits which would kind of need to survive.
To survive, We can't.
Aaron, we can't hear you. Perfect.
So the goal of the game is to build a creature that is suitable to the environment that is ascribed to it.
Yeah. So there are multiple, so it's like built like a planet, like a Earth. So you have multiple biomes. For example, you have a tropical rainforest, and in the tropical rainforest, it's important to have flying and walking and climbing. And you also have like a cold desert that I showed you before. Like there, it's important to have cold resistance, and it's forbidden to have heat resistance. And then you maybe have the ocean that Samuel described earlier. There, it's very important to have swimming. So you have these multiple biomes. And then when it's your turn, you have to build out of your hand cards, which are the animal cards, of course. You have to build an animal species that suits to one of these biomes. So, for example, I would place a very well adapted species to the ocean region. And then it's Samuel's turn, and he builds like an animal species that is well adapted to the polar desert. And then we would play this as long as we have cards, and when we have no cards left, then there is like a scoring phase. So then it's we would have a look in which biome which species is the best. For example, the one that is best adapted to the polar desert because it has the most cold resistance, it gets a certain amount of Darwin points. And then there will be some species that is best adapted to the rainforest, and then it gets Darwin points for that. And then overall, there is we also score the species that has the most competitive strength, like the Tyrannosaurus Rex from this era. So the one that is like most iconic because it is so big and so huge and so strong. And then after the scoring phase, there is a transition phase. You draw an event card, for example, a meteor strikes the Earth. So in the next era, there won't be a lot of food. or you have, for example, you have an event that lowers the amount of plant food, but you have a lot of meat food. So then you have in the next area you have to carnivores have it a little bit easier, and herbivores have it a little bit more difficult, because in the next era you also exchange some of the biomes, because there was also like normal natural climate change, not human-made climate change. For example, there was the ocean, and now there is a mountain, because there was a mountain formation now, because two of the tectonic plates hit each other. And so in the next era you can on the one hand you can create new species that would
suit the new environment.
New environment, but it's much more important to keep your species alive. So you mutate them, you give them new traits, so they adapt to the new situation, or you migrate them. Because, for example, a species that was very well adapted to the ocean is not a very good adapted one to the mountains. So it has two possibilities: mutate or migrate, for example, to the rainforest.
Yes, exactly.
And this is like the whole idea behind the game.
Yes, and maybe one important aspect also to say is that in those biomes you have kind of a limited amount of foods. As an example, here in the whole desert you can see there's 8. Yes, exactly. There's 8 amount of meat. So basically all the animal species that are placed in this biome will kind of compete against each other, who can get that food.
So you really build like a food chain, like in a normal biome. You have the ones that eat first, and then second, and maybe there is a species that don't have enough food, and then it has to find a new niche in another biome, or it has to adapt, for example, now change its diet to a more carnivoric or like omnivoric diet.
Yes.
So
and in worst case, it can happen that it dies out because it's just not. It's
not adapted to the new biome. It doesn't have enough food. So it's really. Does this happen in your game? Does this happen in your game when something is too specialized?
Yeah, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's also kind of the message which you get if you really build those niche animals which have like a ton of one attribute. They're really good in that one time frame, right?
Yeah.
But they will have a hard time over the whole period of the game, because the game is constantly changing and you have kind of to adapt to that change as well.
You really see in the game that if you have a specialist that is perfectly, like I described before, the musk ox, polar bear, moose, this kind of species is perfectly adapted to the polar desert. But if the polar desert gets it's now much hotter now, and there are deserts around, or semi-deserts, or dry forests, then it will have a big problem. And you, on the other hand, you have species that are maybe smaller and have a lot of different traits. And then you really see, okay, they have it much more easier to stay alive. They maybe are not the winner of this one era, but they are the winner over all these eras. So like the cockroach, or
we have the cockroaches.
The cockroaches. So it's, for example, a very small beetle, bug, but it's very successful if you have a look at it from an
evolutionary
perspective. It's not the most specialist in a certain biome, but it can live everywhere. So
Okay. Well, cockroaches have certainly had a good run, haven't they?
Yeah.
Cockroaches and scorpions are two of the best survivors. I've seen incredible things about scorpions, that you can freeze them. You can put a scorpion in a cup and just freeze it in your freezer, and then thaw it out 3 years later, and it'll eventually reanimate and start walking around. Yeah, how the hell does that happen? It doesn't happen for us, and then I think it was cockroaches that can withstand incredible amounts of radiation without damage, which why do they have that special attribute? What is it, the cellular level, that allows that to happen? Anyway, so that sounds interesting, and I appreciate that you've got quality artwork involved in there, and I'm curious to see the game. And how do people get a hold of it, or how are you marketing it? Let's shift it to that.
Yeah. So we marketing the game is our main like platform or marketing instrument is like Kickstarter, because it's a very important tool. Because you can like have a relationship with the customer itself. So you have a very direct communication with the customers. So this is very important, because if you go to retail, you always have like a problem that they want a lot of the margin. So they want a lot of the cash themselves. Of course, that makes sense, because they have a big store, they have employees, so they have a lot of costs. But we think it's much more interesting to directly communicate with the customers, because they can also give us feedback. For example, this time we also make like little polls. So if a certain amount, a stretch goal is reached, then the people can like vote if they want this species or this species in the game. So it's really we really like this direct approach.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And
If I hear it correctly, you're using this direct approach to communicate with the buyers of your game, who buy the game directly from you without going through any kind of a sales agency.
Yeah.
But you're also getting their feedback, and then you're addressing the game according to their feedback, which means that your game evolves.
Yeah, of course,
sure.
that's very true. Yeah, of course. No, that's really.
I think it. Yeah, I mean, generally, Kickstarter should also be a kind of a nice experience for all the people, and I mean that's also a way which you can kind of show your gratitude by letting your people also being part, because they are also part. Without the people, we couldn't do it. And I think that's a nice insight.
Yeah, and it's very important, because the customer in the end is decisive. It's good if you have retailer contacts, and we also sell the game to retailers. For example, WWF, the Panda Nature Conservation Organization in Switzerland, sells our game. And it's very important to have these retailer contacts and relationships. But it's much more important to have the direct link to the customer, because in the end, the customer is decisive. He says if he likes a game or he doesn't like the game. So they gave us a lot of precious feedback. For example, they told us, okay, it would be very important that the game is also accessible for little children. And so we included like a mode for children's 7 and up. So, and this was very important, because today we see a lot of parents that come to our booths at conventions that give us a lot of compliments for the game, that also recommend it to other parents, because it's the game is not just about evolution. It's also a very important thing about the game is that just the people get to know these wonderful species. Like you already told us, like the scorpion or the cockroach, there are so fantastic species. They have so awesome abilities, and it's very important to us to also like show a lot of species to the customers, and so they get to know it in the game. So they play it, and then they see a card, and they think, what is this for a species? And then they learn, okay, this is a species that is well adapted to the heat, so it lives in a very hot region.
Yeah.
And
I think also the current Kickstarter about the expansion was somehow also the feedback we got from the people, because they also wanted to have an encyclopedia about the animals, where exactly this kind of special traits and special abilities are also written about. So we also said, let's do that. Let's do an encyclopedia. If there's enough people who want it, they can have it. And that's what basically we did.
Yeah, because the encyclopedia as a thing is not like, won't be the most financial success ever or something like that, because it's a book, and books are always a little bit under pressure. And but it was really important to us that the people also get to learn and get to know these species better. So when they play it and maybe they have a question, what is this for a species? Where does it live? What are like the threats it faces? What are the biomes it lives in? So and that's the reason why we created also like this animal encyclopedia, so that the people can really get to know the species better in the game. And it was also like a feedback from the people. So like you said before, it's really, if you work together with people and people that really like your project, it's really evolves over time, because they have feedback, they like it as well, they have a passion for it, and so they give you feedback, and so it develops. Your sound is away again.
I have this dog that keeps deciding that if a noise exists, then he needs to make more of it. So I've been having to mute my microphone over and over again when I can tell that he's getting restless over there.
No
All right, so apologize for that.
No problem.
But at least he's not bounding through the room like he normally does and knocking things down. And we've had this dog for like 2 months, and he's like disrupted every podcast I've tried to do.
No, it's not a problem at all. We love animals, so yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know what else to ask about this game. We'll put the links for you have a website that's separate from the Kickstarter, or the Kickstarter links from the website?
Yeah.
Okay, so there'll be one link will be all they need to share?
Yeah, I think 1 or 2 links does. I think we have our main website, so there you find a ton of information about the game, and we also have the Kickstarter link that is like the second most important link, because there you find our campaign, which is live for I think now 50 hours, and then it will be finished. So yeah,
live 50 hours. Say that again. Explain that to me.
So the campaign ends in 50 hours. Sorry.
Okay.
So the campaign is live, I think, till it's it's Wednesday
evening.
No, it's Thursday in the morning, 5 o'clock Central European time. So around 50 hours.
Okay, I'm a little confused as to the campaign. Now people can click the link below to access your game at any time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, is it just the Kickstarter thing that's limited?
Yeah. It's like that. So on our platform, you can buy the game at any time. So we send it to you. We also, I think, we have good shipping conditions to send to the US. But if you in the Kickstarter campaign, you can get the expansion and the Encyclopedia. And if you back it there, you have, I think, way better shipping options that we can offer normally. Because if you have a successful Kickstarter campaign, and I think our Kickstarter campaign is quite successful, you can send them together as a bulk to America. And this will save the customer a lot of shipping costs. And I think that's very important to know, yeah. And,
outstanding.
Yeah.
All right, is there anything else we need to cover about that?
I think the most important thing that I would like to say is that the game, what was really important for us is that the game is carbon neutral, and it also is produced from sustainable resources like FSC. It's important if you do something with wood, you have to use FSC, because this means that all the wood and the cardboard and the paper is from sustainable forestry. And this is very important for us, because it wouldn't make sense for us to make business out of a game that is all about evolution and biodiversity that is not like sustainable. So I think this is just a detail, but it's really important for us. It's from a financial perspective, it doesn't make any sense, but it's important. So I think that's the last thing. And thank you for like having us, so presenting us.
Yes.
And that's very important for us, and we truly appreciate also your work. So we saw a lot of your YouTube videos, and that's very cool, because we really enjoy evolution, science, biodiversity, animals. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, and I'm glad that we did this. I wish I could have met you guys. I was originally planning a trip where I was going to bounce through Zurich, and then I ended up with that trip ends up going a different place. So sorry that I couldn't get to see Zurich.
No problem. But if you ever come across, you can always write us a mail, and we gladly show you around Zurich or Zug.
Yeah,
you're always welcome.
Yeah.
Well, if I get that chance, I will be sure to check through my email and take up that offer.
Please do so.
All right, Marc, Samuel, representing Darwin's Choice. And links below, and of course we'll be sharing this on social media as well. Try to advertise as much as you can.
Thank you very much.
Thank you much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.